All right, so we are doing algebraic fractions, but before we can really do anything with fractions, we need to be able to get common denominators. And in order to get common denominators, you need to understand least common multiples. So a multiple is like a bigger number that gets multiplied into. For example, if I'm looking at the number 4, the multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, and on and on. So like these numbers are multiples of 4. They're bigger numbers that have 4 as one of their factors. So in theory, you already know how to do this with just integer numbers. But as we add letters, it can become more difficult. So let's start off with the basics. Let's say, for example, I want to find the least common multiple of 28 and 35. So one method that we would have used probably quite some time ago when you first learned this, I'm guessing many years ago, you would just start writing out the multiples. So we have 28, and then we have 56, and then we have, oh, adding is tricky. I think it's 84. And then I have to add 28 again. And then I add 28 one last time. And I could even go maybe one more time. So I'm just listing off the multiples of 28. And then similarly, we would list the multiples of 35. That's 35, 70, 105, 140. And here I found it. This is my first common number that I find in both lists. And so this would be the least common multiple. But this method kind of takes forever. It's not really ideal. So instead, what we want to do is we want to use the factors of the original numbers. Factors are the numbers that multiply into a number. So I have 28 and I have 35. Now you can do this by hand or you can do it on your calculator. I'll show you how to do it by hand really quick and then I'll pull up the calculator and we can see how it's done. So what multiplies to make 28? Well, 28 is 2 times 14 and 14 is 2 times 7. And those are all prime numbers. There's nothing that they divide by besides themselves. So this would be 2 squared times 7. And 35 is 5 times 7. And 5 and 7 are both prime. So this would be 5 times 7. If I wanted to do this on the calculator, I would go from the regular calculator and I would go to menu, number. You could actually just find the least common multiple between the two numbers here, or you can go to factor. I want to factor 28. Exactly as I had said before, it's 2 squared times 7, or I could factor 35, which is also 5 times 7. So if I have these factors, how do I get the least common multiple? I need to take each factor, like there's a 2 and there's a 5 and there's a 7. But I also have to take the most amount that exists anywhere. Like that has a 2 squared. So I'm going to need to take 2 squared. Here I have 1 7 and here I have 1 7. So the most I ever need to take is 1 7. And over here I have 1 5. So I also need to take 1 5. So 2 squared times 7 times 5 is 140. That's my least common multiple. If I wanted to do that in the calculator without having to do the work, I would go to menu, number, least common multiple, and then I would put both numbers, 28, 35. The least common multiple here is 140. Let's try another example. Let's say I have 21 and 35. So either using the calculator or using my knowledge of division, I know this is 3 times 7. And this is 5 times 7. So the least common multiple, I need a 3 and a 5 and a 7. But how many of each do I need? Well, there's only 1 3 in this one place. So I need to take a 3. And there's only this 1 5 in one place. So I take a 5. And each of these only has 1 7. So I take a 7. So my least common multiple is 3 times 5 times 7, which is 105. Let's consider one last example just with numbers. So I have 32 and I have 40. Again, using my knowledge of division or using the calculator to get the factors, I factor each of these and I get that this is 2 to the 5th and this is 2 cubed times 5. So I have 2's and I have 5s. So my least common multiple, I will need to definitely have a 2. This one has 5 2s, and this one has 3 2s. So I have to take the most number of 2s. I need all 5 of those 2s. And this one has a 5, so I also need a 5, which means my least common multiple is going to be 2 to the 5th times 5. That's 160. Now let's try it with some variables. So let's say that I want to take the least common multiple of 30y to the 4th and 10y squared. So 30 is 3 times 10, which is 3 times 2 times 5 times y to the 4th power. Let's slide this over, it's a little close. And 10 is 2 times 5 times y squared. So I'm going to need a 2 and a 3 and a 5 and a y. My least common multiple, that m looks really strange. All right, here's a 2 and here's a 2. The most number of 2s is just 1. Like there's no exponent on any of the 2s. Here's a 3. The other one doesn't even have a 3, so I only need to take 1 3. Here's a 5. Here's a 5. The exponent is just 1. I only need 1 5. And here I have y to the 4th, and here I have y squared. So I need to take the most number of y's. I have to take all 4 of these y's as y to the 4th power. So now my least common multiple is 30y to the 4th. And you might say like, but this is 30y to the 4th, which is true. I just need to multiply this guy by the 3 that's missing and 2 of the y's that are missing to arrive at the least common multiple. Another example. Let's say I have 28y and 35y squared. So 28 is 2 squared times 7, and I have 1y over here. And this is 5 times 7, and here I have y squared, so there's 2 y's multiplied together. My least common multiple, I will need a 2 and a 5 and a 7 and a y. I need one of each of them. So let's go looking for 2's first. Only this guy on the left has 2's, and it has 2 squared. I need to take all of the 2's. Here I have a 5. The most number that exists is just the 1 5. Here I have a 7, and here I have a 7, but the exponent in both cases is 1. I just need the 1 7. And here's a y. Here's a y squared. So I need to take both the y's of the y squared when I find my least common multiple. So this 2 squared times 5 times 7 times y squared is going to be 140 y squared. Okay, let's try one last example. For this time, I'm going to have 3 numbers. So I have 18x cubed y. I have 24x squared. And I have 36yx squared. Okay, so 18 is 2 times 3 squared times x cubed times y. Like I just keep the letters. 24 is 2 cubed times 3 times x squared. Again, if you're wondering where I'm getting these numbers, I'm doing it in my head, but you can definitely just get them from the calculator. I could go to the calculator and I could say, find the factor of 24. It's 2 cubed times 3. And then lastly, we have 36xy squared. So this is 2 squared times 3 squared times y times x squared. Okay, so if we look across all of these, there are 2's and 3's and x's and y's. So for the least common multiple, I'll need one of each of those, starting with the 2's. Here there's just 1. Here there are 3 2's, and here there are 2. So I have to take the most number that I need. I need to take all 3 of those. I need 2 cubed. We have our 3's, that's 3 squared. Here's just 1 3, and here's a 3 squared. So the most I ever have is 3 squared. I need all of them. Looking at the y's, the x's, I have x cubed, an x squared, and an x squared. So I need to take the most number that I have, which will be x cubed. And lastly, I have this y and this y. The most I have in any place is just 1. So then my least common multiple is going to be 2 cubed times 3 squared times x cubed times y, which turns out to be 72 x cubed y. And why are we even talking about least common multiples? Is because the common denominator that I require in order to add or subtract fractions is going to be the least common multiple. Let's say I have the expression a minus 3b over 4a, subtract 2 over 3. Before I can add or subtract fractions, I need a common denominator. I need the denominator to be the same, which means I need to find the least common multiple between 4a and 3. So 4 is 2 squared. Of course, a is 2 squared times a, and 3 is just 3. So the least common multiple, which is going to be my common denominator, is going to have a 2 and a 3 and an a. So here I have 2 squared. I need to take both the 2 squared. Here I have a 3. I need to take that one 3. And here I have an a. I need to take that one a. So my least common multiple is 2 squared times 3 times a, which turns out to be 12a. But now the next step is, how do I make it be a common denominator? I look at this list of factors compared to what I have here, and I see what's missing. So this one is missing the 3. I need to multiply this by 3 over 3. And if I look at this guy compared to my least common multiple, I need to see what's missing. And it's missing the 2 cubed. Sorry, it's missing the 2 squared and the a. So I have to multiply this by 2 squared over 2 squared and a times a. To get the common denominator, you first find the least common multiple, and then you need to multiply on the top and the bottom by whichever factor was missing from your least common multiple. So let's focus just on achieving this common denominator. Don't worry about expanding and adding and subtracting. Let's try another example, and then I will put several in the homework. So let's say I want to combine x minus 4y over 2x plus 3 over 2x squared y. So in order to add them, I need common denominators. Let's look at the left fraction and the right fraction. So this is just 2 times x, and this is 2 times x squared times y. It doesn't really look like I did anything there, but I can see now I need a 2 and an x and a y in my least common multiple for sure. So I look here, here's 1, 2, and here's 1, 2. I guess I just need 1, 2. Here I have an x, but here I have an x squared. So I guess I need the most amount of x's, that's x squared. And here I have a y, so I'll also need a y, which means my least common multiple is 2x squared y. But what do I need to do to achieve the common denominator for each fraction? So I look at this, and I look at this, and I can see that the y is the only thing that's missing. So I should multiply this by y and this by y. And now looking at these and these, is there anything missing? There's actually nothing missing. I don't need to multiply that by anything. I am finished. This is what I would need to do to achieve having a common denominator. Okay, so for our one last example, we have 11 over 8b plus 14b over 4u squared b. We need a common denominator, so let's look at each denominator and find all of the factors. So 8 is 2 cubed times b, and 4 is 2 squared, and I have a u squared and a v. So my least common multiple is going to need 2's and u's and v's. Let's look at the 2's first. Here are my 2's on this one. Here are my 2's on this one. The most 2's that exist anywhere are 3. I need to take all 3 of the 2's, of the 2 cubes. And we can look at u. You don't have to go in alphabetical order, I just always do. This one has a u squared, the other one doesn't have anything. So I need to take both of those u's with the u squared. And then here's a v and here's a v. So I'll need to take one v. That means that the least common multiple is 8u squared v. How do I make this common denominator happen? I've identified what it is, but how do I make each of these fractions that I have so far have that common denominator. And I look here at my factors of the least common multiple and here of what I've already got in my denominator. 2 cubed, done. V, done. The thing that's missing is that u squared. So I have to multiply u squared on the top and the bottom. Now let's compare the other fraction. So 2s. There are 2s, but here I only have 2 squared, and here I have 2 cubed, which means I still need one more 2 on the top and the bottom. U squared already there, v already there. So in fact, I only need to multiply by the 2 on the right-hand fraction in order to get a common denominator. And that's it for today. So let's focus on this step of finding the least common multiple, and then let's extend that to being able to get our fractions to have their common denominator.